Thank you so much for joining us. I am excited to have Dr. Dan in the studio. Now, we do a program on the radio every Tuesday, but we only have 5 minutes.
Right.
And every single week, it's like, man, I have so much more I want to ask. To do a good job, we don't have any time constraints right now because we're doing this as a podcast. And we're going to encourage people who want to know more to come to this particular podcast to learn a little bit more. And we may do some more of these along the way as well. But again, this is an opportunity for us to not feel quite as rushed, to not have that 5-minute radio time constraint, to talk a little bit about what hypnosis is and what you do at Sioux Falls Hypnosis. And I want to just say this right away. My wife and I are not only, fans because you're a client of ours, but we're a client of yours as well. And we've had the chance to utilize the services that you have. And I'm a big fan and love what you're doing. And we've gotten great response. And I know I've talked to others who've worked with you that have had a great response. But let's talk about, first of all, Sioux Falls Hypnosis. Where did this concept come from to do this, and what is hypnosis even?
Well, I initially started to study hypnosis when I was in graduate school, clear back in the late 90s. I became interested in it, and then actually was able to sort of pursue it, and ended up doing my dissertation on hypnosis. I've been in this racket a long time.
Nice.
And had an opportunity to train with some of the best people in the world and have a wonderful kind of set of teachers. And so I've been doing the hypnosis thing for a while. And so I'm a licensed psychologist, and I was working in the field. My specialty was geriatrics. And when COVID came along, I had a chance to change my life, and I took it. And kind of pulled it away from the mental health field and set up my own office and wrote a book. So you can find me if you go to Amazon.
I saw you on Amazon.
You can go to Amazon and just go look in the book section, and my name, Dan Burow, B-U-R-O-W. You can find my last book. One of the things that I've have a nasty habit of doing is I've been able to move through the world and I've had some amazing teachers.
Yeah.
Just profoundly brilliant, genius teachers that took an interest in me, and I took an interest in them. And I would spend prolonged periods of time with them, and because I've sort of come to the conclusion that that's really the way learning happens best.
Oh yeah.
Is this one-on-one relationship between a student and a teacher. But one of the things I do is when at the end of all of that, I have a tendency to sit down and write a book about it. So I've done it 3 times now.
Nice.
And so one of the last teachers I had, who is, I think, probably one of the most effective, brilliant hypnotists in working in America, well, North America, actually. His name is Scott McFall, and he lives in Florida. And working with him was a kind of a life-changing experience, and I could never repay him for what I was given. But what I did do is write a book about what happened.
Nice.
And what I learned and how I learned. And that's really the essence of hypnosis, is that it's a learning experience.
Absolutely.
It's not... everybody has different kind of perceptions of what it is, but hypnosis is about learning. And so when people would ask me what hypnosis is, the simplest definition that I can give you: relaxation, fixated attention, repetition, and learning.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is about learning. But people want to believe that learning is about information or knowledge, that I'm just going to, I would share ideas with you and you would walk away like, oh, yes, Dan, I understand. And I feel smarter. But one of the things that I always tell anybody who will listen to me is that people change because of emotion.
Yeah.
And they justify it later with intellect.
Okay.
People change because of emotion, and they justify it later with intellect. So any change that a human being experiences, any change that you experience or I experience, is because we've had an emotional experience which caused us to learn something.
Yeah.
We had an emotional learning. And then what happens is right afterwards, then we start to think it through and we analyze it, and then we explain to ourselves, oh, well, yes, I understand this because of X, Y, and Z. And then we mistake one for the other.
Absolutely.
So the work of hypnosis is about emotional learning. My job is to help you have the emotional experiences you need to have to learn what you need to learn to make the changes that you need to make. That's
Nice.
kind of my job.
That's awesome. That's a fun job.
Yeah.
Now, there are some people, when they think of hypnosis, they think of, some guy that's going to be on a stage and I need to get some volunteers and I'm going to make you do some silly things. And now that's hypnosis as well, but that's kind of different, but the same.
Stage hypnosis is a different form of hypnotism. And, as someone who came up in academic hypnosis, yes, doctor, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
I remember when I thought that was a lesser form of this. And one of the things that I have to own up to every day is that the most brilliant hypnotists I've ever worked with were stage hypnotists before they did anything else, such as this Scott McFall, who was a very, very well-known stage hypnotist before he kind of went into the therapeutic side of things. And so are all the other great hypnotists. They were stage hypnotists. So I take nothing away from that now. I realize that it's just another form of this particular art or this skill set that we use to entertain people, but it is a little bit different, not entirely, but a little bit different than what you would do in an office when you were helping work with people.
Absolutely. So do you do any stage hypnotism?
I decided it was something that I needed to learn, and I went through the process and learned it, and I did a couple of shows, and my interest is really, focusing on, if I could figure out how to do a stage show where I could focus it on helping people, change this, change that, and I've seen people do this, and it was, there's an English magician and hypnotist, his name is Darren Brown. I've seen him do some hypnotic-based pieces where he worked with somebody that I thought it was just the most amazing thing I had ever seen, where he changed a woman's life. It was if I could figure that out and do that.
You could do corporate parties and get everybody. Now we're going to hit new sales goals because everybody's going to do so much better.
Right. There would have to be some, because that's what really draws me. Is a specific outcome, something somebody either wants to change and accomplish or really needs to.
Yeah,
that is what I love doing, and that's what keeps me in my office.
And now let's get back to the office, because I was being silly dragging you on stage.
No, it's quite all right.
But back in the office, what are the things that you at Sioux Falls Hypnosis see the most? What are the most common things that, if you were going to boil it down to, there's probably some things that don't fit in this, but the top few categories of people you work with?
I do a great deal of work with weight loss.
Nice.
And people who are either have tried to lose weight and failed, or are struggling for some reason. Really, the thing that hypnosis is really best at is the mechanism that causes either failure or people that turn around and put the weight back on again.
Yeah.
Because the thing I always tell them is it's not about the food, and it never was.
Yeah. So
there's something else here that you need to learn that is really the thread that runs through all of these experiences that you're having. Yeah. And that's what hypnosis does well. So that's a big piece of what I do. Then the next group is probably stress related. Okay. Anxiety, nervousness, restlessness, insomnia, confidence related issues, people who are just struggling under just what we'll call stress and stress related problems. That's sort of the second piece of what I do. Then smoking. I help people stop smoking.
Is smoking and vaping and all of those kind of lumped
Chewing.
Together?
Yep. All of it kind of lumps into one spot. It's just stopping something.
Yeah.
It's stopping a behavior.
I had a dear friend who he quit smoking and he started vaping. He's like, "Oh, this is so much better for me." And I'm like, "I don't know that it really is."
I don't know either, but
I was like, "Okay, if that makes you happy, I guess."
Right. And so, okay, cool. But when you want to get ready to stop that too, let me know.
Yeah.
And it's really because it's about changing your behavior.
Yeah.
It's about changing a habit. So, it goes from smoking to many, many other habits. Everything from I've seen people who bite their nails. I've seen people with, with other habitual behaviors that they'd like to change or stop. And then I see kind of an assortment of people for really less common issues. Nice. Strange and rare type of things.
Is there, and I understand you probably can't talk about real specific things, but are there things that might surprise people to know that hypnosis could help with this, where, because again, those are the things that I was thinking ahead of time. But, and I guess I hadn't thought about the nail biting, so that kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, I see people for sexual dysfunction, erectile dysfunction, which is something you might not think of.
Yeah.
I see people for, I've seen people in the past, a lot of people came out of COVID with, one of the symptoms of COVID is problems with your taste.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very common.
Yeah.
And a lot of people came out of COVID with changes in their ability to taste things, that things didn't taste good anymore, things that they liked before they don't like, or things that they enjoyed once they can't taste them anymore. And, when they've gone through all of the medical pieces to make sure that that there's nothing else going on and that they've been medically cleared on this, and then they have found their way to my office. And I've worked with them to try to change that in some way.
Could you help me like onions? I don't like onions.
I say we give it a shot just to prove a point. Just to prove a point. Let's do it. To be honest, recently I'm seeing a lot of people with food-related stuff.
That's cool.
It's been an interesting run. People who were, since they were very young, are picky eaters.
Yeah.
And now have a reason to change that. Maybe they have children and they don't want their children to kind of have this thing that they have. I've seen people with texture-related eating issues.
I've gotten over, in the last couple of years, I've tried more things that I'd never tried before. And my list of things that I'd never tried, it's a silly list. Like, I'd never had tartar sauce. It looked, looks disgusting.
I have to look at you very differently.
I know, but I finally tried it.
Okay.
And then after having tartar sauce, and the way that I had it, my wife had a Filet-O-Fish, and I would always order those with no tartar sauce. She's like, why would you order it that way? I'm like, I don't know. I don't like
weird,
tartar sauce. Then I got one with tartar sauce. I'm like, oh, it's so much better. They were always so dry before. She's like, of course they were.
That whole tartar sauce thing, it's not an accident that it's there. So I also see things like that. Yes.
Cocktail sauce. I'd never had that. I'm like, I don't want to try that.
Wow. Okay.
There's a lot of weird stuff. I'd never had coleslaw, broccoli.
Right. People decide they want to change that for some reason, and then they will end up finding me. I do see a lot of what I will call it confidence-related issues. So some of that's always related to stress, but some of it is just a straight confidence thing. I do work with a lot of men who are, struggling with some aspect of their job or their family or some aspect of their lives where they're feeling overwhelmed and their confidence in themselves has been shaken, and they're not okay with that anymore.
Yeah.
And so, I do a great deal of that as well.
That's awesome.
And it's a wonderful part of what I do. I really enjoy that.
So as people are listening right now, they're hearing about all these wonderful things that you have done, and maybe they even have something in their mind where they're going, oh, hey, I would kind of like to be able to do this. What is the best way for them to connect with you to start the process?
The best way to do it is you could give me a call. Just call me directly. I'm at 605-702-6691. And you can call me, just leave me a message. I'll get back to you as soon as I see your message and have a moment. You can go to my website, SiouxFallsHypnosis.com, and on there I've got a little chat person.
Yeah.
And if you leave a message in there, it comes directly to my phone.
Nice.
And I'll call you back right away. So there's as many ways to get at me as you want to think of.
Very nice. And again, the website's so easy.
SiouxFallsHypnosis.com.
Yep, SiouxFallsHypnosis.com.